I wasn't even allowed to sit in the front row at my father's funeral. That space, they said, was for immediate family only. My aunt whispered it like a kindness as she nudged me back. Not cruel, just indifferent. Like I hadn't held his hand through every 2 a.m. fever. Like I hadn't been the one to lift him from his chair when his legs forgot how. Like grief could be ranked, and mine didn't make the cut. My brother Everett stood at the podium, black suit perfectly pressed. He spoke like a statesman, about legacy, about building something bigger than ourselves, about how Dad was a man of vision, and we intend to carry that vision forward. He didn't mention how he'd missed Dad's last birthday, or the fall before that, or every Thursday when I drove 2 hours just to bring chamomile tea and quiet company. I stood in the back, by the coat rack, holding a mason jar of heirloom seeds. The last thing Dad gave me before his voice gave out completely. No one noticed. No one ever did. They said I was the one who walked away from college, that I never reached my potential, that I was wasting time with dirt and daylight. But they didn't see the way Dad squeezed my hand when the pain hit. They didn't hear him whisper, "It's okay, Ave, just plan it all again." They weren't there, not when it mattered. After the service, Everett gathered the family on the porch like a general, leather-bound folder in hand, camera crew in tow, and with a smile too polished to be real, he said, "This place will stay in the family. I'll take it from here." No one questioned him, not the uncles, not the lawyer Dad used for 20 years. The one now conveniently replaced. I didn't argue, didn't cry, didn't ask for a seat at the table. I just walked up to the house, to the room I grew up in, and found the door already locked. The new nameplate read, "Director of Strategy, Everett J. Thompson." I didn't knock, just turned, walked down the gravel drive, and whispered to myself, "It's okay, Dad. I'll plan it all again." They changed the locks by Tuesday. By Thursday, my childhood room had become an ideation suite, complete with vision boards, fake succulents, and ring lights. The bed was gone. The quilt my grandmother stitched disappeared. In its place, a standing desk and a neon sign that read, "Soil Meets Strategy." Everett renamed the farm, from Thompson Family Homestead to Thompson Acres, branded it like a lifestyle blog, filmed a glossy announcement from Dad's old rocking chair. "This isn't just a farm," he said to camera. "It's a movement, a legacy, and I'm proud to lead it forward." He never once harvested anything but likes, never once stood knee-deep in mud, hands shaking from pruning too long in the cold. He never whispered to the soil like it might remember who we were. But I didn't argue, didn't post a rebuttal, didn't call anyone to defend me, just silence. Curated, precise, powerful silence, because I had something he didn't, a backup plan. 3 weeks before Dad passed, he called me into the barn. He was weak. His breath came in patches, but his eyes were clear. He handed me a sealed envelope. Inside, a flash drive, a folded letter, and a single sentence scrawled in trembled ink, "If they forget who you are, remind them." I didn't open it right away. It felt too sacred, like something meant for a later chapter. But then the rebranding started, the erasure, the performative legacy, so I made a quiet visit to the edge of town, to a small law office with a rusted tin roof and no website. Mr. Amos greeted me at the door. He used to be our farmhand, back when Dad still did everything by calloused hand and instinct. Turns out, when Dad's health declined. He hired Amos again, this time as a legal assistant. Quietly, privately, away from the rest. Mr. Amos didn't ask questions, just handed me an old metal lockbox with a single red wax seal. "You don't need to fight now," he said, "but when the harvest turns bitter, and they've shown you who they are, bring this back to me." I nodded, didn't cry, just took the box, tucked it into my bag next to the mason jar of seeds, and walked away, not in defeat, but in preparation. Because sometimes the most powerful way to reclaim your name is to let them think they've won. The land I found wasn't much, just a quarter-acre lot behind an abandoned greenhouse, on the edge of Harrow County, where the wind carried dust, and the soil cracked when you stepped on it. No one was watching, no one cared, which made it the perfect place to begin. I set up a shed with salvaged wood, strung solar panels from old fencing, laid drip lines by hand, and opened the first jar of seeds. The ones Dad marked with masking tape and pencil. Blue Ridge black tomatoes, 1984 strain. Heirloom seeds, rare, resilient. Like stories passed down by hand instead of shouted from rooftops. Each morning I planted. Each evening I journaled. No press, no partnerships, no pitch deck, just soil and silence, and a whisper of something old returning. It was about 2 weeks in, when I noticed the shadow at the edge of the fence. A boy, maybe 14, too clean to be lost, too still to be trespassing. He watched like someone trying not to be seen, but hoping you'd notice anyway. The next day he was back, same place, same stare, so I walked over, asked his name. He hesitated, then said, "Nico." He didn't ask what I was doing, he already knew. "I follow your brother," he said finally, "on TikTok." He said this land was part of the movement. I paused, Nico continued, but then I saw the comments. The stuff about the will, about you, so I Googled you. He scratched his arm, looked down. "You're the one actually growing things, aren't you?" I didn't know how to answer, so I just handed him a trowel. "Help me water," I said. He did, without another word. That was the first day. By the third, he was asking about soil acidity. By the fifth, he brought his own notebook. By the seventh, he stopped filming me with his phone. He started listening instead. Nico became my first apprentice. Unpaid, unplanned, but entirely real. He asked why I didn't post online, why I did defend my brand. I told him, plants don't argue with weeds, they outgrow them. Nico wrote that down in all caps, said he'd make a shirt out of it. I just laughed, for the first time in months. He asked me once, "What's the goal?" I thought for a second. "To prove," I said, "that quiet things grow too." The rain came hard that night, uninvited, unforgiving. It hammered against the tin roof of the shed like it had something to say. I couldn't sleep. The seedlings had taken root, but barely. One more storm like this, and I'd lose them all. I lit the old oil lamp Dad used to keep in the barn. Not because I needed the light, but because the sound of the match reminded me of him. The lockbox was still tucked beneath the workbench, unopened since the day Mr. Amos gave it to me. But something about the storm made me reach for it. Inside, I found a small cloth-bound notebook, the kind Dad used to keep in his back pocket, covered in coffee stains and smudged ink. The first page just said, "Things the land taught me, so I won't forget before I do." I flipped gently, my fingers trailing each word like a tether back to him. Avery asks more questions than anyone I've met. She won't plant until she's listened. Not to me. To the soil, Everett talks loud. He'll make a good businessman, but the farm needs someone who doesn't sell it before it blooms. If the land goes to the wrong hands, it'll survive. But it won't sing. I didn't cry. Not then. But I turned the page to the last entry. Scrawled, faded. The lines shaky, but the thought still steady. Legacy isn't noise. It's what holds steady when the noise is gone. I closed the book, pressed it against my chest, and whispered, "I'm still listening, Dad." Meanwhile, Thompson Acres was trending. Everett had gone viral again. He stood in perfect lighting beneath a drone-shot sunset, pitching sustainable agriculture to influencers who'd never held a shovel. Talk shows called him the new voice of modern farming. Brand deals poured in. He trademarked Soil Knows Intention and printed it on kombucha labels, organic soap, and aprons. His face was everywhere, except the farm. Because the farm was dying. The heirloom fields were overtilled, the irrigation system outdated, the soil exhausted, but Everett wasn't worried. He had hashtags, he had mood boards, he had investors, until one day he didn't. It started with a tweet. A screenshot of Dad's old farm deed with Avery's name marked in pen. Then a TikTok posted by Nico. It showed Avery teaching a group of local kids how to test soil pH, using only vinegar and baking soda. Captioned, "The sister they forgot, the soil didn't." It exploded. The comments came fast. Why isn't she the face of the farm? Everett's out here selling slogans while she's rebuilding roots. This is authentic, it's branding theft. Even the Farm to Table podcast that once praised Everett did a full episode titled, "When Legacy Gets Stolen," the real story behind Thompson Acres. Everett panicked. He posted a live Q&A, stammered through half answers, dodged questions about the will, blocked users asking about the real farmer. And that's when the press caught wind. A journalist from the Harrow Gazette dug deeper, found the replacement lawyer had been disbarred 5 years earlier, published a headline in bold, "Fabricated Legacy, Thompson Acres faces legal and ethical backlash." The sponsors began to pull out. The kombucha labels stopped printing, and the man who never farmed found himself surrounded by fields that no longer listen to him, because even the land knows the sound of an empty hand. Everett called it a legacy forward, a vision for the future. A white tent was pitched in the center of the old apple orchard, the orchard Dad planted for Mom, the one that hadn't borne fruit since she left. There were catering tables, produced displays, brand signage with bold fonts and muted earth tones. A camera crew from a sustainability network circled the setup, miking up Everett like he was delivering a State of the Union. He wore linen. He smiled like nothing had cracked, and as reporters settled into folding chairs, he stood at the podium, confident, composed, completely unaware that the soil beneath him was already shifting. I arrived in work boots, still caked in real dirt. No makeup, no filter, just Mr. Amos beside me holding a briefcase and an old metal box sealed in red wax. Everett clocked me immediately, grinned, microphone in hand. "Well, look who finally came back. Come to join the real work." I didn't answer. Mr. Amos stepped forward, voice calm but steady. "Before any new vision is declared," he said, facing the crowd, "the original voice of this land has something to say. He opened the case, pulled out a small USB, walked to the PA system, and pressed play. There was a brief crackle. Then, Dad's voice, low, measured, worn but unmistakably him. If you're hearing this, it means my name and my daughter have been erased. The tent fell silent. Even the cicadas stopped. I built Thompson Farm with 2 hands and 1 promise, that it would go to the child who stayed. The one who watered the orchard when I couldn't lift the pail. The one who held my wrist when I couldn't find my own breath. The one who didn't just speak of legacy, but lived it. That daughter's name is Avery Lynn Thompson, and I hereby declare her the sole inheritor of this land, its brand, its assets, and every right associated with it. Gasps swept through the crowd like wind through tall grass. Everett's face drained. He stepped forward, furious. "This is fake," he snapped. "She's manipulating audio. This isn't legal." Mr. Amos cleared his throat, lifted a thick file from his briefcase. "Not only has this recording been authenticated and notarized by 2 independent sources," he said, unflinching, "but the original signed will is also on file with the district court. The version you submitted was forged. Cameras flashed, phones filmed. The press took notes like they were writing history. Everett lunged for the papers, but security stepped between us. I didn't flinch, didn't smirk, didn't even look at the cameras. I turned to my brother and said, quietly, just loud enough for the mic to catch, "Soil knows intention, and this land never accepted you." He opened his mouth, but no words came, only silence. Real, echoing, legacy-shattering silence. He didn't walk away. He was escorted, still protesting, still posturing, still trying to rebrand the truth. But I wasn't there to humiliate him. That would have made me like him. I was there for something far older, far deeper, far stronger, and I had already won. Not with a lawsuit, not with a slogan, but with a voice. One no one expected. To speak again. A week passed. The white tent came down. The microphones vanished. The emails from sponsors stopped, so did the likes. Everett had retreated. No press release. No apology, no statement, just silence. Not the kind I once endured, but the kind that comes when the show is over. And the lights won't turn back on. That Saturday, I sent him a message. Simple, direct. "Tomorrow, 4 p.m., the front porch." He showed up, not in linen, no watch, no cologne. Just boots that didn't fit right. A flannel shirt that looked borrowed. And hands that didn't know what to do with themselves. He sat down where Dad used to sit. The same rocking chair he once used for his press shoot. But this time, no camera crew, just me, the wind, and a stack of papers on the table between us. He glanced at them, then looked at me. "So, what now?" His voice cracked on the second word. "You gonna sell it all? Rebrand me as the villain? Burn it down just to prove a point?" I shook my head. "Everett," I said, "this land's been burned enough." He looked at the folder, then at me. "What's that?" "An offer," I said. "A position." He frowned. "You're kidding." "I'm not." He opened it. Inside, a job title, field apprentice, regenerative practices. A rotating work schedule. Housing in the old staff bunkhouse. A contract. Minimum wage, 3-month review clause. He blinked. "You want me to be a farmhand?" I nodded. "You said you wanted to carry the legacy. Here's your chance." He laughed once, a small, bitter sound. "And if I say no?" "Then," I'll lease the back fields to the culinary school downstate. They've already offered twice what you made in ad revenue. Either way, this land won't bend to ego anymore. He didn't answer. Not that day, not the next, but the following Sunday, just before sunrise. I saw someone moving in the east field, turning compost by hand, clumsily, boots mudded, movements unsure, no phone in sight. It was Everett. He didn't ask for help, didn't speak, just worked. And that afternoon, he stayed for the soil workshop, sat in the back, took notes, listened to Nico explain nitrogen balance like he invented it. No one recognized him. No one took his photo. And for once, he didn't need them to. I didn't forgive him that day, but I forgave myself for needing the apology, for waiting for someone else to call it justice. Because justice already lived in every inch I reclaimed, without raising my voice. And maybe, just maybe, he was ready to learn what that sounded like too. The swing under the pecan tree still creaks when the wind moves just right. Dad built it when I was 7, hung it between the two trunks that never grew straight. He used to say, "Legacy doesn't have to stand tall, just strong enough to hold weight." I sit there now between planting seasons, boots off, journal open, watching something I never expected to see again. A field full of people who care more about roots than reach. We turned the old barn into a learning hub. Nico runs weekend workshops now. He teaches soil regeneration like it's magic. Because to him it is. His TikTok is gone. His notebook has names now of every plant, every fungi, every mistake. He built the compost toilets himself, laughed when they worked. Our interns include single moms, veterans looking for peace, and high schoolers who used to skip class, now testing pH levels like it's alchemy. There's no brand deal, no slogan, just dirt-streaked joy. And small things growing. Mom visits sometimes. She brings blackberry pie and old silence. We sit on that bench in the shade, not saying much. Once she touched my hand and asked, "Do you think your father knew it would end up like this?" I looked out across the field. The rose he never saw bloom again, but once whispered to like prayer. And I said, "I think he planted more than we knew." Everett still shows up. Early, always early. His hand still wrong on a spade. But getting better. He doesn't talk much. But once, during harvest, I saw him pick up a fallen tomato, brush the dirt off with his sleeve, and put it gently into the bucket. No one was looking, except me. Maybe that's how redemption begins, not with fireworks, but with dirt under your nails, and a name you no longer need to shout, to feel seen. On the side of the barn, there's a new sign, painted by hand. No logo, no marketing team, just 4 simple words: Avery's Bench, everyone welcome. Because legacy isn't something you inherit, it's something you build, especially when no one thinks you can. If you've ever been told you're too quiet, too strain, too different to matter, I hope this story reminds you. You don't have to fight for a seat at someone else's table. You can plant your own field, build your own bench, and wait for those who truly see you to find their way home. If this story spoke to something in you, drop a quiet comment. I'm planting mine too. And if you ever need a reminder that small roots make mighty trees, you know where to find us. If this story sat quietly beside your heart, the way certain truths do, you're not alone. Here we tell stories like that, of roots that grow deeper in silence, of names reclaimed in whispers, of people who were overlooked until they weren't. So if you saw a piece of yourself in Avery, or in the boy who stopped filming and started listening, or even in the brother who came back with empty hands and finally asked to learn, stay a while. There are more benches, more fields, more stories like this one, waiting to be unearthed. In the next chapter, you'll meet someone else who didn't get the spotlight, but learned how to light their own way. No drama, no revenge, just dignity, dust, and the slow rebuilding of a name. So if you're still with me, click subscribe, hit that little bell, and comment below. Quiet power is still power. Because here, we don't raise our voices. We raise gardens, we raise homes, we raise each other, and we're just getting started.